We feel as if we've dedicated a lot of time and energy to this matter, and just not enough progress has been made. We need to see a roadmap moving forward about how this conflict can conclude.
Now it's time to face the fact that Mr. Putin wants war. He has no intentions to stop it.
This is Today as It Happened. Good Thursday evening to you. I'm Holly Furfer, here with your chronological look at the biggest events and stories from the day. From Russia's deadly barrage of missiles and drones on the capital of Ukraine to Secretary of State Marco Rubio's meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. But first, a look at some of our other top headlines of the day. A federal judge in New Hampshire is temporarily blocking Trump's order to ending birthright citizenship. A federal judge in New Hampshire announced his decision after an hour-long hearing and said a written order will follow. That order will also include a 7-day stay to allow for appeal. The lawsuit was filed on behalf of a pregnant woman, 2 parents, and their infants. It's among numerous cases challenging Trump's January order denying citizenship to those born to parents living in the U.S. illegally or temporarily. Overnight in Los Angeles, authorities rescued 31 construction workers that were trapped inside a huge industrial tunnel that collapsed Wednesday evening. The workers were about 400 feet underground when they were trapped about 6 miles into that tunnel. None of those rescued had major injuries, authorities said. And L.A. Mayor Karen Bass expressed relief after the rescue operation came to an end.
I know when we raced down here, I was so concerned that we were going to find tragedy. Instead, what we found was victory. All of the men that were in that tunnel rescued up, safe.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy taking on an additional role in the Trump administration. President Trump said Wednesday that he is directing Duffy to be the interim NASA administrator. He added that Duffy has been doing a tremendous job as transportation secretary. Shortly after the president made the announcement, Duffy wrote on social media that he is honored to accept that mission. Waymo has begun offering teen accounts for driverless rides. Right now, it's only in the Metro Phoenix, Arizona market. But before now, you had to be at least 18 to sign up for an account. Teens can hail a ride once their account is activated. Waymo says it will offer support agents during teen rides, and parents can be looped in if needed. Teens can share their real-time trip progress with parents, while the parents get all the ride receipts. All right, happening now, political leaders around the globe, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, are attending the 4th annual Ukraine Recovery Conference in Rome. They're discussing how to protect Ukraine from Russian aggression and the country's eventual recovery.
I think it's a new and a different approach. Again, I wouldn't characterize it as something that guarantees a peace, but it's a concept that we'll take back to the president today and here as soon as I finish with you.
Scripps News international correspondent Stuart Smith is live in London. And Stuart, you've been following this, so what do we need to know this hour?
In another attempt at trying to end the Russia-Ukraine war, Secretary of State Marco Rubio spoke with the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Malaysia on the sidelines of a ASEAN conference where Asian leaders meet. And at that conference, on the sidelines, he spoke to Lavrov about ways the war could end. Now, remember, President Zelensky of Ukraine believes there's no intention whatsoever for Russia to try to end this war. But Marco Rubio says discussions do suggest that there is perhaps, he says, a new and different approach that could be taken. He said he wouldn't characterize that as something that guarantees peace, but he described it as a concept that he will take back to President Trump today. No further detail on that yet, but something he's suggesting might provide a new way to end this war. He also talked about these Patriot missile systems that Ukraine has wanted for years and would significantly help it with its missile defense, which is all the more important now that it's seeing record numbers of barrages again overnight, and the night before 700, a combination of 700 missiles, drones, cruise missiles, and also ballistic missiles fired at the capital. These defensive weapon systems would be something Ukraine would really like to have, but Marco Marco Rubio telling journalists in Malaysia that the US is keen to see European nations like Spain and Germany, which have these Patriot systems, either donate them or sell them to Ukraine or buy them from the US and then have them delivered to Ukraine as well. The US, though, are reportedly also considering some of these missile battery systems for Ukraine too. So a little bit of an update, but nothing radical in terms of new developments, even though these very high-level politicians, the Russian Foreign Minister and the US Secretary of State, have managed to get together for another chat.
All right, Scripps News international correspondent Stuart Smith live for us. Thank you for that update. Now to a story developing. At least 4 people are dead and several others kidnapped after Houthi rebels sank a ship in the Red Sea. This is the second Red Sea attack in a week. I'm Scripps News' Holly Furfer, and this is On the Scene. Scripps News national correspondent Alex Miller live in New York with the latest on this. And Alex, how did all of this unfold?
Well, we know that the Iran-backed terror group launched 2 attacks this week, the one most recently killing 4 people. European vessels rescued about half a dozen people when they bombed this ship. Now, there are about a dozen people who seem to have been taken hostage. Now, this is the first time this past week that we have seen hostage taken by the Houthis since November of 2023. So it is quite a big deal. There was concern about escalation regarding this. And the ship that was attacked just a couple of days ago, it was a Liberian flagged ship. But both of the ships that were attacked this week were owned by the Greeks. So you can see why the Europeans have been feeling the need to get involved. The German foreign minister asking the Iranians to get involved because of their influence over the Houthis. They're the ones who fund the Houthis. And so they said that they expect Iran to exert its influence on the Houthis and put an end to it. The U.S. has a truce right now with the Houthis, but it doesn't seem to have extended to other nations. Still, the U.S. is condemning this attack, saying in part that they're calling for the immediate and unconditional safe release of these hostages. The Houthis, the embassy says, continues to show the world why the United States was right to label them as a terrorist organization.
Minister Netanyahu was in Washington, and his counterparts in Doha are working on a deal to end the war with Hamas. Could this be related? And really, overall, what does it say about the fragility of Middle East peace right now?
Yeah, I think there is at least a thought that this is somewhat related to Prime Minister Netanyahu's visit when it comes to the timing of these attacks. But you have another Iranian-backed group, the Houthis, saying that they are defending a different Iranian-backed terror organization, Hamas. And that is what is leading the UN Security Council to talk about their concerns about a potential escalation here. Listen to what the envoy to Yemen said.
We are now, with grave concern, seeing an escalation in the Red Sea with attacks on 2 commercial ships earlier this week by Ansar Allah, resulting in civilian loss of life and casualties, as well as the potential for environmental damage.
Now, these aren't the only missiles that we have seen the Houthis launch. They are directly aiming at Israel. Over the weekend, they did so, Israel retaliating by hitting 3 of their key ports. But the Houthis are continuing to launch missiles at civilian targets in Israel, attempting today to hit Ben Gurion Airport. They did not do so. There were no casualties or injuries. But it is interesting to note that the firing between Israel and the Houthis continues as we are seeing what is happening in the Red Sea.
Alex, these ships were carrying cargo. Do we know what they were carrying and how much of an impact we might see on shipping costs from something like this?
Yeah, we haven't seen shipping costs recover since October 7th. This is a huge issue. We will continue to see the prices rise, in part because these ships now need to be diverted to go around Africa. They're avoiding the Suez Canal, and so that makes everything a lot more expensive. Again, regardless of the port, the Houthis say that they're targeting ships that are trying to get towards Israel, but regardless of the port destination, we know that this will still drive up the cost of shipping.
All right, Scripps News national correspondent Alex Miller live for us. Thank you for that information. Coming up on Today As It Happened.
This is going to protect every single child around the country from this lawless, unconstitutional, cruel executive order.
This Charmin Ultra Soft Smooth Tear has wavy edges it's no ordinary square. Charmin Ultra Soft Smooth Tear has wavy perforations that tear so much better, with more cushiony softness. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
There are moments when it gets scary.
You hear shooting down there?
And the important thing to do is not panic, be dynamic.
They're here improving their skills for how to get through Russian minefields.
I love that Scripps News gives me the opportunity to go where the stories are. You meet the most amazing people, everyday individuals whose stories take bravery to tell. These are stories the world should know about.
Jason Bellini, Scripps News.
For live reports, breaking news, and headlines from around the world, stream Scripps News.
They're consistently caring.
There she is.
Reliably relatable.
It's a cleaning comforter. You can wash these?
And dependably honest.
Got everything?
Everything but happiness.
Hilariously, brutally honest.
Austin says I don't listen enough.
Does he also say you drink too much? Because that's coming.
How else does a kid learn?
Encouragement, positive role models, cash if you're tired.
One of today's funniest shows, The Counters. Weeknights starting 11/10 Central on Laugh More.
You and I are going for a long ride.
Might be dangerous. You talk me into it.
All right. Start talking.
Ready. I'll leave that up to Nate.
I didn't hear anybody now. This mask stands for justice.
How about the next clapper thunder?
That answer your question?
Are you still alive? You didn't exactly turn your back.
I'll be back.
I'm Vinny Politan. Welcome to Closing Arguments.
What's happening here?
It's unreal. Let me show you exactly what happened.
Closing Arguments with Vinny Politan, only on Court TV.
How prepared is your family if disaster shows up at your doorstep? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan before they show up. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
let's go.
You'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Yes!
Make a plan today.
Start watching TV for free with Tableau.
Switching to Tableau has really been a money saver.
With Tableau, I can record something on my phone, I can pause it, I can go get a drink, I can come back, I can continue in the family room.
Order today at TableauTV.com.
Ion is on with 3 networks to enjoy.
Yeah, it's on.
Yes, showtime.
You're gonna want to see this.
It's on. Ion, Ion Plus, and Ion Mystery.
Wow!
It's on.
Welcome back to Today As It Happened. Let's check back in on our daily briefing of the day's top stories. A federal judge blocked President Trump's order restricting birthright citizenship. Birthright citizenship means if you're born on U.S. soil, you automatically become a citizen, no matter the status of your parents.
We've gotten an outpouring of concern and confusion and fear from people who are going to be subjected to this order around the country, people telling us that they're considering changing where they're going to deliver their babies.
All right, so let's get right to Scripps News legal affairs correspondent Avajoy Burnett, who's live in our D.C. newsroom. And Avajoy, so give us more detail on why this judge is blocking the Trump administration from enforcing its birthright citizenship executive order.
Hey there, Holly. Well, this is a judge who's based in New Hampshire, and this hearing started at 9 this morning, and we got an order very quickly. And in that one-page order, this judge said this executive order, if it were to be enforced as is right now without going through the court system, would likely cause, quote, irreparable harm, meaning that any of those babies who are born to undocumented migrants here in the United States could face damages that are irreversible, especially if they're deported from the United States, or if they're rendered stateless and don't know if they're U.S. citizens or what countries they are citizens of, pretty much. So this is a ruling that is now coming in from this federal district court judge in New Hampshire. And remember, on day number 1, it was one of the top priorities for President Trump along with his administration. He signed this executive order on birthright citizenship, which would prohibit the babies who are born to undocumented migrants from automatically becoming United States citizens. This is a case that made it all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. There were lawsuits automatically in several states, and then it made it all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. But what we're now seeing with this particular matter is this judge in New Hampshire, he has agreed to certify what is known as a class of people. It's a big group of people who could be shielded from any particular damage if this executive order is implemented. So number 1, today he certified that class. Even if you're not directly named on the lawsuit, you could possibly benefit from any action that comes after this moves its way through the court system. And then number 2, he's blocked the administration from enforcing this executive order until this case moves its way through the court system, through the federal court system. So this is a really big win for all of those advocacy groups and mothers and really parents who have babies who are born in the United States who they thought would automatically become United States citizens. And then once the executive order was announced back in January, they figured their kids would be in limbo because they didn't know exactly what would be happening to the citizenship status of their children. So that's the breaking news that is coming out of New Hampshire today. This judge is now certifying a class of tens of thousands, if not millions, of babies who are born in the United States in this period of uncertainty. And then they're also blocking the Trump administration from enforcing this executive order until everything works its way and gets a conclusion from the court system, Holly.
And Avajoy, so how is this related to the Supreme Court decision from late last month, I guess, when you're talking about class action?
Yeah, it's directly related to that Supreme Court decision from late last month. It was the birthright citizenship case, really the biggest case of the term. And as I mentioned, when President Trump signed that executive order, there were automatically lawsuits. In those lawsuits, in at least 3 separate states, judges blocked the Trump administration from actually enforcing this executive order. But what the Trump administration did was they went all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court and asked the U.S. Supreme Court to rule not on the issue of the legality of birthright citizenship, but whether these lower court judges have the authority to block action from the White House, to block action from the executive branch. And late last month, the U.S. Supreme Court determined that these lower court judges likely overstepped their authority, but the Supreme Court did not rule on the legality of that particular executive order. They just talked about if these lower court judges maybe overstepped their authority in blocking what the president wanted to accomplish. And so this is why this is directly related to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court gave these lower courts 30 days to take action before the executive branch would be able to implement this executive order. And that is why we're now seeing this quick action in the lower federal courts.
All right, Scripps News legal affairs correspondent Avajoy Burnett live for us in D.C. Thank you for your analysis on all of that. Up next on Today's It Happened.
OSHA recently wrapped 2 weeks of public hearings to consider the first ever federal regulation around heat safety standards.
I worked in areas, especially when you're doing things like running an asphalt machine, mixing concrete. Those temperatures tend to double or triple your heat exposure.
I'm Vinny Politan. Welcome to Closing Arguments.
What's happening here?
It's unreal. Let me show you exactly what happened.
Closing Arguments with Vinny Politan, only on Court TV.
They're consistently caring.
There she is.
reliably relatable,
It's a cleaning comforter. You can wash these?
and dependably honest.
Got everything? Everything but happiness.
Hilariously, brutally honest.
Austin says I don't listen enough.
Does he also say you drink too much? Because that's coming.
How else does a kid learn?
Encouragement, positive role models, cash if you're tired.
One of today's funniest shows, The Counters. Weeknights starting 11/10 Central on Laugh More.
Start watching TV for free with Tableau.
Switching to Tableau has really been a money saver.
With Tableau, I can record something on my phone, I can pause it, I can go get a drink, I can come back, I can continue in the family room.
Order today at TableauTV.com.
Covering the White House, you are in the center of where everything is happening in our government. There are really important issues happening in our country right now. People have questions about where the economy is headed, immigration policies, how the U.S. is handling global conflicts. My job is to bring meaningful answers and ask critical questions that impact everyday lives for our viewers. Haley Bull, Scripps News.
For live reports, breaking news, and headlines from across the country, stream Scripps News.
Ion is on with 3 networks to enjoy.
Yeah, it's on.
Yes, showtime.
You're gonna want to see this.
It's on.
Ion, Ion Plus, and Ion Mystery. It's on.
His identity, a mystery.
Who is he?
His sword, lightning fast.
I challenge you!
His name,
Zorro! Zorro!
Zorro. Tuesday starting 5/4 Central on Grid Extra.
How prepared is your family if disaster shows up at your doorstep? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan before they show up. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
Let's go.
You'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Yes!
Make a plan today.
You're watching Today as It Happens, Scripps News rundown of the biggest events and stories of the day. So let's jump right in.
The Secret Service is now suspending several agents 1 year after President Trump was shot at a campaign rally. Trump was shot in the ear and a rally goer was killed in Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13th, 2024. Several agents who were involved in securing the site that day have now been suspended. That includes a counter sniper and an agent who is part of Trump's detail. Several congressional investigations and federal reports found multiple failures that day, including communication breakdowns and lack of leadership. And President Trump has announced a 50% tariff on all copper imports. In a social media post late Wednesday, the president said the move will help the country build a dominant copper industry. According to the London Stock Exchange, America imports about half of the copper it uses, with most coming from China, Chile, Japan, and Congo. Copper is a key component in a variety of goods, including electronics, batteries, and defense equipment. The tariffs on copper could make those goods more expensive. And the deadly power of flash floods has been on full display in Texas and New Mexico this week. But the reality is that heat is far and away the biggest weather-related killer, especially for those who work outdoors. That's why OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, is considering implementing its first ever federal heat standard. Scripps News Group's business and tech correspondent, Maura Barrett, has been covering these developments. And Maura, what can you tell us about this?
Well, Andrew, OSHA recently wrapped up 2 weeks of public hearings to consider this first ever federal standard. The rule was actually proposed under the Biden administration, and so advocates were not optimistic once President Trump took office. If you remember, at the beginning of the year, he issued a directive basically for certain agencies. For every new regulation they put in place, they had to cut 10, and OSHA is one of those that has to follow that. And so, understandably, advocates were a little anxious about this coming through, so I listened to some of the hearings and talked to experts to see which way the agency might be leaning.
The push for a national heat safety rule spurred by nearly 34,000 reports of heat-related injuries and illnesses in less than 10 years. Nearly 500 of those were heat-related deaths, mostly among workers in landscaping, agriculture, manufacturing, and construction.
The heat, I think, is a silent killer.
David Martinez works for the New Mexico Department of Transportation. Rain or shine or sweltering heat, he's responsible for inspecting bridges across the state.
But when it gets hot, it gets hot. And I've worked in areas, especially when you're doing things like running an asphalt machine, mixing concrete. Those temperatures tend to double or triple your heat exposure.
Dozens of workers like David, advocates, and labor leaders spent the last 2 weeks testifying virtually on what they see as an urgent need to protect workers, especially with more frequent and longer-lasting heat waves that we see in a warming world. The proposed OSHA rule would use high heat triggers based on the heat index, which measures the combination of outdoor temperatures and humidity. When that heat index hits 80 degrees, employers would be required to provide water, rest, and shade for workers. When it reaches 90 degrees, workers would receive paid 15-minute breaks every 2 hours.
Say these are set regulations. What would that mean to people like you and your employees?
Like I said, I think it gives us a little bit more of a voice. I think management tends to say, oh, not like the regulations, right? They like productivity more than standard, I guess.
Employer advocates pushed back during the hearings, detailing their preference for a performance-based standard.
Our feeling is that there should be requirements for employers to perform those different components. How they do that should be left up to the employers, where I think it's going to vary depending upon location, industries, and specific workplaces.
Jason Mills, an OSHA litigator, was surprised the hearings went on at all after the Trump administration took office.
What we expected to happen was to see the rule scuttled entirely. And the reason for that was because of this big push for deregulation.
Mills says Trump's labor pick, Lori Chavez DeRaymer, helped in that she's business-friendly but also has union ties.
All we can do is read the tea leaves here. If they're acting so quickly on the heat rule, really at the very start of this administration, I think we can anticipate that they're going to push on that.
So employers are adamant that they would prefer this performance-based standard. Basically, it gives employers a lot more flexibility on when to set the standards in place because it could vary based on where these heat triggers go into effect. But they are in agreement that there needs to be a national standard. There are some states that have heat standards, but a bulk of them don't. And so having a national-wide rule would be more helpful, especially for bigger companies like UPS or Amazon, for example. But OSHA is in their review period right now until late September, and then they'll issue a decision on whether or not the rule will take effect in early 2026, Andrew.
All right, be careful out there is the message there. Scripps News business and tech correspondent Maura Barrett for us. Maura, thank you.
Coming up on Today As It Happened.
Through the commercial approach that we've had and the partnership that we've had with SpaceX, these crew rotation missions, we continue to maximize our research.
And later,
Senator, with your Epstein Amendment, which was passed unanimously, what's your goal here?
The goal is transparency. I think all of us and I think the public have an interest in knowing exactly how this case has been handled.
Growing up, my mom was a local news anchor, and even when I was little, I saw my mom speak to people that you would never get an opportunity to speak with. That seemed interesting and also fulfilling to me. What set Scripps News apart, we traveled to the story. We talked to the people on the ground to bring the viewer details that impacts actual people's lives.
Liz Landers, Scripps News.
For live reports, breaking news, and headlines from across the country, stream Scripps News.
You and I are going for a long ride.
Might be dangerous. You talk me into it.
All right. Start talking.
Ready. I'll leave that up to Nate.
I didn't hear anybody nod. This mask stands for justice.
How about the next clap of thunder?
That answer your question?
Are you still alive?
You didn't exactly turn your back.
I'll be back.
Mondays. First you moved in, you banned cigar smoke and kitchen nudity.
Oscar Madison.
Just doing my daily yoga.
Felix Unger.
You're not exactly a guy's guy.
Why? Because I use coasters? I'm an accomplished photographer. Perfect, let's start shooting. And I can make a pair of tap shoes talk. What do you say, boys?
Together, they're the odd couple.
Here, hold that. Oscar, is that coffee? I just cleaned the rug. Better not move.
The Odd Couple, Monday starting 7/6 Central on Laugh More.
How prepared is your family if disaster shows up at your doorstep? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan before they show up. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
Let's go.
you'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Yes.
Make a plan today.
Ion is on with 3 networks to enjoy.
Yeah, it's on. Yes.
Showtime.
You're going to want to see this.
It's on.
Ion, Ion Plus, and Ion Mystery. It's on.
I've worked hard all my life. I learned the secret to success is speaking in your authentic voice. And I bring that lesson to my show every morning.
Opening Statement with Julie Grant. Weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central. Only on Court TV.
Watch live TV for free. Meet Tablo. Access over 90 free channels, including popular shows, news, and live sports. Plus, you can record, pause, and replay. Always 0 monthly fees or contracts. Order a Tablo Total System at TabloTV.com or these popular retailers.
Welcome back to Today As It Happened. I'm Holly Furfer, here with your daily rundown of this afternoon's top stories.
And a new crew will soon be heading to the International Space Station. It comes at a time of upheaval at NASA, where the agency lacking a permanent administrator and more cuts on the horizon. Scripps News Global Affairs correspondent Maya Rodriguez is live in our D.C. newsroom with the latest. Maya, we mentioned the president just appointed an interim leader for NASA. You have a little more info on that. What can you tell us?
Yeah, Andrew, you know, President Trump is appointing Sean Duffy, the current transportation secretary, to be NASA's interim leader. The agency has been without an administrator since Bill Nelson, who was the NASA administrator under President Biden, stepped down when the Trump administration came into office. Now, President Trump originally nominated Jarek Isaacman, the billionaire space adventurer. He participated in the first private commercial spacewalk last year. But Trump withdrew his nomination after he claimed that Isaacman donated to Democratic candidates and had personal ties with Elon Musk, ties that Isaacman disputed just a few days ago. In the meantime, NASA is preparing to send a new crew up to the International Space Station with a launch set for either late July or early August. Right now, they are aiming for just after 12 p.m. on July 31st. It will include 2 American astronauts, 1 astronaut from Japan's space agency, and a Russian cosmonaut. They will be heading up on a SpaceX rocket and capsule. And amid tensions with President Trump, SpaceX founder Elon Musk had recently threatened to pull SpaceX from these types of missions before he walked that back. Here's what NASA officials had to say in a news conference about the upcoming mission during a news conference just within the last hour.
Through the commercial approach that we've had and the partnership that we've had with SpaceX, you know, these crew rotation missions, we continue to maximize our research and throughput on the vehicle, and really working towards that. And then, of course, the station is critical to prepare for future commercial endeavors in low Earth orbit.
Meanwhile, NASA's budget is facing significant cuts under President Trump's 2026 budget. That includes a 25% budget cut, which is $6 billion, as well as layoffs that could potentially total 5,000 people. Some are raising alarms about that because 2,000 of those layoffs would include senior staff at the space agency. There are concerns those cuts could impact upcoming missions to try and return American astronauts to the moon and any potential future missions to Mars. Andrew?
And Maya, you just mentioned Elon Musk. We know anything involving him, there's a lot of dynamics at play, especially when it comes to this administration. But he did say something interesting recently, that the space station is too dangerous to stay in orbit. Is that true? What do we know about the health of the space station right now?
Yeah, you know, Musk publicly told NASA it should bring the space station out of orbit within 2 years. Now, this coming fall will mark 25 years of a constant human presence on the space station, and it's really starting to show its age at this point. There have been leaks that have needed repair, and frankly, just wear and tear on the space station after 25 years in orbit. Andrew.
All right, Scripps News Global Affairs correspondent Maya Rodriguez for us in our D.C. newsroom. Maya, thank you. The woman who stowed away on a Delta flight from New York to Paris last year has just been sentenced to time served, but won't immediately be released from custody. Svetlana Dali has been in jail for the past 7 months. The federal judge said she would not be released as she faces new charges of breaching security at a Connecticut airport. Dali was initially convicted in May after she was caught on camera sneaking onto a plane without a ticket at JFK. Prosecutors say once aboard, she went straight into one of the plane's bathrooms and hid there with her bags for several hours to avoid detection. And websites serving women, minority, and LGBTQ students at Harvard have been taken down. That's according to the student newspaper, the Harvard Crimson. The website now redirects to a page for an Office of Culture and Community, a replacement for the soon-to-close diversity office. The move marks the continued unraveling of diversity initiatives at the nation's most prestigious university. Harvard has dealt with pressure from the Trump administration, which has sought to coerce the school to make changes that are more reflective of the administration's policies. And days after Attorney General Pam Bondi and the DOJ announced that Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide and that there was no client list, many Republican voters online and supporters online are alleging a cover-up. And today, a Democratic senator introduced an amendment to, quote, retain, preserve, and compile any records related to the disgraced financier. That amendment comes just for a vote in the Senate Appropriations Committee. And Scripps News congressional correspondent Nate Reed is live for us on Capitol Hill. Nate, what can you tell us about this amendment?
Well, that amendment passed unanimously, Andrew. And look, this is an effort by Senator Chris Van Hollen, the Democrat from the state of Maryland, to try and preserve some of those documents related to the Epstein investigation. Now, Attorney General Pam Bondi has come under fire from some on the left and on the right in the past week or so after she claimed that there was a possible client list that they'd been investigating. Also, Elon Musk had tweeted saying that he believed that President Trump was on that client list. He has since deleted that tweet. So there's a lot of interest in who might be on this alleged list. But then earlier this week, we learned from the Trump administration that no such list exists. The FBI has said that. Now, Attorney General Pam Bondi has walked back her prior comments. Now, Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen seizing on this lack of communication, or rather seizing on this inconsistency in their previous public statements, to insert an amendment into the annual government funding bills to try and preserve any records related to Jeffrey Epstein. We just caught up with Senator Chris Van Hollen moments after that amendment was approved. Take a listen.
Senator, with your Epstein amendment, which was passed unanimously, what's your goal here?
The goal is transparency. I think all of us, and I think the public, have an interest in knowing exactly how this case has been handled over the years. So that amendment does two things. It requires that all the documents be preserved. And second, it requires that they present a detailed report.
Are you concerned that there was a cover-up here at all from the Trump administration, from Pam Bondi, from others?
I just wanted to get the facts. My view is that we should just have all the facts laid out so the public can have confidence.
To be clear, Andrew, this amendment was approved unanimously. No senator, Democrat or Republican on the Appropriations Committee, which of course includes former Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. They were all on that committee. They all voted unanimously to approve it. No one objected to its passage. At the same time, there's still a good chance it could not end up in the final funding bill. Oftentimes what we see with government funding bills is they serve as an effective blueprint for what Congress plans to do. this past year and in previous years, government funding bills approved by the various committees that work on them don't necessarily make it into law. There's a very good chance that President Trump will not necessarily sign that piece of legislation or a bill that authorizes that amendment later this year when the government funding bills are slated to head closer to his desk. So we've learned a lot about that amendment. We also do not know if that amendment, we do not know if that amendment will become law.
Yeah, it is interesting, Nate, that this is an issue that Democrats are now paying attention to, and as you just reported on, are making its way through the halls of Congress. I want to move on to another topic. Mike Waltz, a name that I haven't heard for a while. Remember, he was at the center of that Signalgate controversy, Trump's former national security advisor. You ran up to him on Capitol Hill, or ran into him and ran up to him on Capitol Hill. Remember, he was appointed to be the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. Haven't heard anything about a hearing, anything like that. What's the latest?
Yeah, that nomination, as far as we understand, is still pending. And look, this is the beauty of reporting up here where we are on Capitol Hill. My producer and I were waiting outside of the hearing for a different senator. We see from a distance that what appeared to be Congressman Mike Waltz going through security, ran up to him. Obviously, he has not been seen or heard from much publicly since that Signalgate episode where he added a reporter to a chat on the consumer app Signal about strikes against Houthi targets in Yemen. That was information that was expected to be classified. Pete Hegseth also contributing there, putting information in that chat. I actually have that right here. Pete Hegseth's messages in that chat, according to that Atlantic article. So again, we haven't heard much from him since Trump removed him as national security advisor, replacing him with Marco Rubio. I ran up to him. I asked him if he's concerned that his participation in that Signalgate episode will hurt his chances at confirmation, and if he has any regrets. He was quite brief in his answer. Take a quick listen. Are you concerned that your prospects for confirmation are damaged by that incident? No. Do you have any regrets? No. And there you have it. Clearly no regrets from former Congressman Mike Waltz, former national security advisor, now having to face bipartisan scrutiny in front of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee as he looks to be confirmed as the next U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. Obviously, the position comes with a swanky New York apartment and a lot of perks attached to it, but at the same time comes with that increased scrutiny that he did not face in his last position. The position of National Security Advisor is not confirmed by the Senate. UN ambassador to the UN, though, certainly a Senate-confirmed position. He could face a lot of scrutiny.
All right. Well, Nate Reed for us up on Capitol Hill. Nate, thank you for that update.
Coming up on Today as It Happened.
People really don't really understand the gravity of the situation. I think 2 days ago when we got done with our searching, the number was at 60, and then yesterday went up to 161, 162. I've never been on anything this bad. Like, I've searched for bodies and stuff, but nothing like this.
You're watching Scripps News. Scripps News is streaming for free on all your favorite streaming services. Once you get the app, get free access to breaking news, live events, and the award-winning journalism you expect from Scripps News. Start streaming Scripps News today.
Mondays.
First you moved in, you banned cigar smoke and kitchen nudity.
Oscar Madison.
Just doing my daily yoga.
Felix Unger.
You're not exactly a guy's guy.
Why? Because I use coasters? I'm an accomplished photographer. Perfect, let's start shooting. And I can make a pair of tap shoes talk. What do you say, boys?
Together, they're the odd couple.
Here, hold that. Oscar, is that coffee? I just cleaned the rug. Better not move.
The Odd Couple, Mondays starting 7/6 Central on Laugh More.
His identity, a mystery.
Who is he?
His sword, lightning fast.
I challenge you!
His name,
Zorro! Zorro! Zorro!
Zorro. Tuesdays starting 5/4 Central on Grid Extra.
If you think you can report on American politics by just staying in Washington, D.C., you're doing it wrong. Do you hope his visit to the picket line changes some policies? I make it a priority to go to places that aren't spoken about on national news and bring their perspective to my reporting. Are you going to vote? This country is so diverse. And if you thought 2024 was busy, buckle up. Joe St. George, Scripps News. Washington.
For live reports, breaking news, and headlines from across the country, stream Scripps News.
Ion is on with 3 networks to enjoy.
Yeah, it's on. Yes.
Showtime.
You're gonna want to see this.
It's on.
Ion, Ion Plus, and Ion Mystery. It's on.
Watch live TV for free. Meet Tablo. Access over 90 free channels, including popular shows, news, and live sports. Plus, you can record, pause, and replay. Always 0 monthly fees or contracts. Order a Tablo Total System at TabloTV.com or these popular retailers.
I've worked hard all my life. I learned the secret to success is speaking in your authentic voice. And I bring that lesson to my show every morning.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central. Only on Court TV.
How prepared is your family if disaster shows up at your doorstep? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan before they show up. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking, let's go. You'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Yes! Make a plan today.
Welcome back to Today As It Happened. I'm Holly Furfer. All right, let's jump right back into our rundown of the day's top stories.
Elon Musk's AI chatbot Grok got an update after posting anti-Semitic remarks on the social media platform X. The new version is called Grok 4. Grok 3 came under fire after it posted remarks that included one that praised Adolf Hitler. That post has been deleted, but the X AI addressed the remarks in a post saying that they are actively working to remove hate speech. Musk unveiled the update in a live stream on X late Wednesday, calling it the smartest AI in the world. And he praised the model's ability, saying it's smarter than almost all college graduate students in all disciplines simultaneously. Musk, the owner of Tesla, said in a social media post that the electric cars will include Grok as early as next week. And if you plan to buy toys for the holidays, you might want to do it soon. The CEO of giant toy maker Hasbro warns toy prices could go up as early as August. Chris Cox says Hasbro's main international suppliers are in China and Vietnam. The Trump administration has implemented steep tariffs on both countries. Hasbro has relocated some manufacturing back to the U.S., but says there are challenges to do it in a larger scale because labor in the biggest factory is in the price you pay. For example, he says a doll that costs $10 now would end up costing consumers $18. And the Federal Emergency Management Agency is now operating a command center at Guadalupe Keys RV Resort in Central Point, Texas. Boats and ambulances are checking in with FEMA there as they begin day 7, searching for the 150 people still missing. The death toll is currently at 120 and rising. 1,200 responders from 12 states, plus volunteers like the Cajun Navy, are still on the scene to help survivors piece their lives back together. It is a daunting task. Volunteers describe digging through 20 feet high piles of debris, having to move vehicles out of the way, and then dealing with the heavy physical, mental, and emotional load. Scripps News Group's Michael Anthony Adams is joining us from Houston. He just got back after spending days chronicling the desperate efforts in the flood zone. Sir, it is good to see you. You were there until near dark on the river with a search and rescue team. What can you tell us?
Hey, Andrew. Yeah, I got to see firsthand a new technology that's being used to scan beneath the surface of the floodwaters in hope of finding some of these missing victims.
The search for victims here in Kerr County has reached a dire point.
See if we can get like 30 feet in and get about right here. I want to be where you're at right now. I can try here real quick.
With more than 170 people still missing, the search for victims of the devastating flood in Kerr County has entered a critical and desperate phase.
And I wanted to get a clear view of the rest of the concrete wall that's cleared. Yeah. That way I could see if it was marking anything else, but it's only marking that single spot.
The Gulf Search and Rescue Team is the only crew using artificial intelligence to scan beneath the surface, searching for signs that could indicate the presence of human remains.
So these first scans, these are the last scans on this left side. Yes, sir. Yeah. So you can see it marking off this wall right here.
So it marks on that better than it does when there's debris there then?
Yes, sir, because that sonar is able to get straight to it instead of go. That's why I was saying if there's something in debris, it's going to be harder to
see it.
Yes, sir.
Unless it's in front of the debris.
Yes, sir, exactly.
So if a human's against the concrete, say held there by current, it'll still show the human and not just the concrete like bowing out like it might be broke or something?
Here, I'll show you. Look.
Search teams like Gulf are zeroing in on the towering debris piles, believed to be concealing the bodies of those still unaccounted for.
So we got approved to come and search this dam, and we wanted to scan it with sonar. And the sonar that we're using it's called the Aqua. It's an handheld active sonar device that uses AI targeting technology to help find and recover victims of drownings. When it's scanning, what it'll do is it'll send a sonar cone out. It'll come back. The AI interprets it and lets you know if there's a possibility of a body or if there is a body. Yes, sir. Right off that dam, you have like that white log. Okay.
Cody Gould is 26.
Right at that.
And the only person here operating this AI-driven sonar technology to help bring the missing home.
Okay.
So I was scanning, didn't get any possibilities, didn't get any hits on anything, except when we got to the south side of the dam. I say we searched. I kept hitting on one spot. It's a possibility. It wasn't telling me it was absolutely certain, but it was letting me know that, hey, this is concerning. This could be something. Don't just disregard it, essentially is what it was telling me when I was reading the scans. So I hit on it 10 or 15 times, and we got divers out here just to check because we don't want to leave any stones unturned.
Despite the dangerous undercurrents, scuba divers from the Austin Police Department geared up and volunteered to make the risky descent into the floodwaters.
Oh, yeah.
Put you on the rocks over here, or
people really don't really understand the gravity of the situation. I think 2 days ago when we got done with our searching, the number was at 60, and then yesterday went up to 161, 162. I've never been on anything this bad. Like, I've searched for bodies and stuff, but nothing like this. I don't feel like there's really any words to describe of how it feels to know that many people and that many families possibly don't have their loved ones at home with them.
There's a storm rolling in, and conditions on the river are getting worse. And so the incident command here in Curve Hill has called an all call, which means all search and rescue crews have to get off the river. So the Gulf Search and Rescue Team are gonna have to leave this for now, and they're just not sure if there's a body down there or not. The divers were only able to go down 3 feet, and the AI sonar reading was showing that the mass was down at 6 feet. And the current is so bad underneath that there very well could be a body under there. And these guys are gonna have to walk away right now not knowing. And I know how tough that is for them.
All right, Michael, Anthony Adams, thank you for your reporting, and thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Andrew.
And don't forget, if you want to help the people of Central Texas hurt by this disaster, just scan the QR code on your screen in order to donate. So far, you, our viewers, have raised $48,000 for the relief efforts. Thank you.
Up next, on Today's It Happened.
The next sermon you hear could include an endorsement for a political candidate. I'm Katia Tubman. Coming up, how a surprise move from the IRS is changing what is said from the pulpit.
You're watching Scripps News.
Growing
Growing up, my mom was a local news anchor, and even when I was little, I saw my mom speak to people that you would never get an opportunity to speak with. That seemed interesting and also fulfilling to me. What set Scripps News apart, we travel to the story. We talk to the people on the ground to bring the viewer details that impacts actual people's lives.
Liz Landers, Scripps News.
For live reports, breaking news, and headlines from across the country, stream Scripps News.
Want to get the most out of one sheet? Grab Bounty. While ordinary brands can't hold up, one sheet of Bounty keeps working even when wet. Now that's the sound of value. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper. One sheet of Bounty versus one sheet of the competitive brand. One sheet of Bounty is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less. Get the job done with one. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Covering the White House, you are in the center of where everything is happening in our government. There are really important issues happening in our country right now. People have questions about where the economy is headed, immigration policies, how the U.S. is handling global conflicts. My job is to bring meaningful answers and ask critical questions that impact everyday lives for our viewers.
Haley Bull, Scripps News.
For live reports, breaking news, and headlines from across the country, stream Scripps News.
You got us banned from being room parents? I have never been more in love with you.
Who wants to go nuts for donuts?
Show him your folding trick.
I'm not in the mood for your sheet right now.
That's gotta hurt, huh?
You keep me coming back for more.
I didn't hear anybody knock.
Shall we proceed?
My pa's the best shot in the whole world. Isn't it exciting?
They call you the rifle man. Just make it good.
Start watching TV for free with Tableau.
Switching to Tableau has really been a money saver.
With Tableau, I can record something on my phone, I can pause it, I can go get a drink, I can come back, I can continue in the family room.
Order today at TableauTV.com.
I've worked hard all my life. I learned the secret to success is speaking in your authentic voice. And I bring that lesson to my show every morning.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central. Only on Court TV.
Ion is on with 3 networks to enjoy.
Yeah, it's on.
Yes, showtime.
You're gonna want to see this.
It's on.
Ion, Ion Plus, and Ion Mystery. It's on.
How prepared is your family if disaster shows up at your doorstep? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan before they show up. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
let's go.
You'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Yes!
Make a plan today.
Well, change could be coming to what you hear when you go to your place of worship. The pulpit has traditionally been a place where you don't hear explicit endorsements of political candidates, but Scripps News national correspondent Katie Tubman has been looking into how that might change. Katie, what's behind this?
Well, Andrew, right now, a change from the IRS means the clergy at your church, synagogue, mosque, or other place of worship could now tell you who to vote for. Religious leaders can now endorse political candidates without risking their organization's tax-exempt status. The IRS says it will stop enforcing a 1954 rule that barred tax-exempt groups like churches from political endorsements. The decision is receiving praise in some religious circles, with proponents arguing it's a matter of free speech. Pastor Robert Jeffress, a staunch supporter of President Trump, said on X the government has no business regulating what is said in pulpits. Others, like Rabbi Jonah Pesner, worry about the decision.
This was a terrible decision by the IRS. So once houses of worship become partisan, it really corrupts
the goal of a place of worship, to be a sanctuary for all people.
There are also concerns about what the move could mean for money in politics. Eric J. Thomas leads a parachurch ministry.
Once churches start endorsing candidates while keeping tax-exempt status, it raises serious concerns about fairness.
It could open the doors for the politically motivated to take advantage of donations to places like churches in hopes of pushing a partisan agenda and receiving a tax deduction, says Philip Hackney, a law professor and former IRS employee.
I expect to see more political dollars move towards churches and have the impact of corrupting their mission more towards political dollars. It becomes a political disclosure and tax shelter for churches, and I think that's a problem for churches long term.
Hackney notes that even before this change, the IRS barely enforced the rule barring political endorsements from the pulpit.
Andrew, President Trump favors the IRS decision and called it terrific. During his first term, he signed an executive order to give religious organizations more freedom when it came to IRS rules. Andrew?
Thank you so much for joining us this evening for Today As It Happened. I'm Holly Furfer. Have a great Thursday night.